Hi everybody, this is Alchemist 2 and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently finished Anne Rice's The Wolves of Midwinter, and this is the second and last book of the series. And I hadn't read the first one, but I didn't have to because it made sense to where this was going and what was known as the chrism. For instance, when somebody is turned in the Vampire Chronicles, she calls it the Dark Gift. In this case, she calls it the chrism, and it's a similar thing. When one is turned or bitten to become a morphenkinder or werewolf. And it's very allegorical to see the characters warring against their other selves, so to speak. And it's similar with, I think, those of us of the faith. And I can say this from experience because there are times that I war with myself and I think, well, I could just do what everybody else does and I could use drugs or sleep around or drink a lot of alcohol or smoke cigarettes, and I don't do any of those things because I have no desire to do so, and I'm not even compelled to start doing those things. And honestly, I am waiting for the right person to come into my life for the whole experience with sex and whatnot. But call me a prude if you will, but that's just the way I feel about that. And it's interesting how she discusses the sensuality of the morphenkinder. And wolves in and of themselves have always been considered a very sexy creature, I guess you could say. It makes sense. I mean, there's something very primal and carnal about wolves. Just as a archetype or symbolism in that in and of itself is it's fascinating, I do believe, and I just think it comes from our understanding of predators and just everything that a predator entails, everything a predator embodies, and the certain abilities that predator has or can use. And it's very different to see the story narrated by some of the predators in and of themselves. And there's a mystery ongoing throughout the book about the wolf man and these people of the forest and how they aren't really human in and of themselves. They are more ethereal and non-corporeal, and it's very different. And I love the way she writes. She's very visual and she's very picturesque in her language and her turn of phrase. It's very poetic. It's definitely done in typical Rice fashion. If you have ever read any of her prior books, it's done in the vintage Rice way, which I really love, and I absolutely devoured this. I could not put it down. It was that good. And I didn't have to read the first book. It doesn't really matter, because in and of itself it is a work of art, and you really feel about Reuben and his constant torture of being reminded of Marchant and her we figure out what caused her demise. And yeah, there's a whole lot that leads up to that. I'm not going to say what it is because it'll ruin the book, but it's utterly tremendous in and of the way that she just interweaves all these different characters. And poor Marchant, you feel for her, and the fact that she is a tortured soul and she can't find her rest. And Reuben is going through his own ordeal of the chrism in and of itself, and wrestling with that. And yeah, it's definitely unlike anything I've ever read before, but it's a similar thing with how she writes about her characters that are so tortured throughout Interview with the Vampire, and that whole Vampire Chronicles, which I absolutely love to death. And of course Lestat is my favorite. I will say it for now. I adore Lestat because he is a very tragic character. He's a very tortured soul. He's a very tragic character, and you love to hate him because he's full of himself. He's very arrogant and conceited, and flamboyant and charismatic, and he has this je ne sais quoi, and I love that about him. There's Reuben in this one. Reuben is a character that is not unlike Lestat. Well, he's not at all like Lestat. He's actually a very sensitive character. He lets his emotions. He's more in touch with his emotion, and he's not afraid to let the inner beast out, as it were, so to speak. And with his constant haunting with Marchand, you feel his utter plaintive melancholy. It just is a constant melancholia that he's dealing with, and you think, oh my dear Lord God, this guy has it worse off than Poe. Poor man. He's just consistently tortured by that, and then you understand, once you get deeper into the book, why that is. And he just, like, he puts himself through that, but he has a good reason to. But you still think, why, Reuben? Stop! Don't do this to yourself. You're beating yourself. You're flagellating. Stop flagellating. I mean, don't. Why do you do this? It's contemptible. It's horrible. And I just felt for him. And later on, well, I'm not going to say what happens with Marchand, but it's different, and the way that it's written, it's kind of like a ghost story written for Christmas as well, because it was often said that during October, November, and December, that the spirits were their most active, and that the veil between the worlds was thinner. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, because out of experience myself, I have felt my own mother's spirit just kind of stirring around. Well, Christmas was her favorite time of the year. She loved Yuletide. I love Yuletide too. I mean, who doesn't love Yuletide? It's just something that we're all connected to. The Midwinter itself, and the promise of hope that comes from Christmas and what it represents, and everything that it embodies. There's a lot of Christianity in this book, and I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to start waving my Christian flag or anything and turning people away from my reviews, because I'm afraid that if I do that, I'm going to lose some followers. So I myself, okay, I'm going to say this for the record. I am not religious, okay? I've never been religious. I will never be religious. I am spiritual. There is a difference. Yes, I believe in Jesus Christ. Okay, I will say that. But I'm not going to go around and tell people, well, if you don't believe this way, you're going straight to hell. No, I'm not going to do that to you. And this doesn't even go into that particular aspect of faith. But there is a lot to be said from this book in and of itself, and the understanding of gods, and the understanding of religion, and just not just religion, but the sacred. There's more to it than that. The sacred is a whole nother kind of understanding and comprehension. There's a difference. There are a lot of things in this world that I consider sacred, even though the ordinary person would think, well, that's so profane. Well, I think nature in and of itself, and when she describes it in her detail as she does so magnificently well, and just breathtakingly gorgeous in the way that she uses her language. The woods in which these characters live at Nideck Point is just absolutely stunning. It's absolutely spectacular. It is nothing short of splendiferous, as I would say. It is just beautiful. There's no other word for it. It embodies the whole concept, the idea of beauty that so many of us have difficulty expressing in just mere words, because beauty is a concept. It depends from one person to the next. For me, beauty is nature in and of itself, just out in its vast array of so many different backgrounds and settings that you could choose from, and this is one of many. The forest. She chooses the forest, and I agree with this assessment. The forest, even though at times may be considered a very dark place and full of mystery and intrigue, and it is often a place that embodies our deepest fears. And of course, this was done in Disney's Into the Woods, which I haven't seen yet, but I understand from having read the synopsis that that's what it is trying to convey. And I thought, well, yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's not a metaphor. Every one of us, we all go through our dark nights of the soul. But if you are a fan, like I am, of Miss Rice's work, I would definitely recommend this book, because it is nothing short of absolutely fantastic. It is just terrifically done, and just a gem of a book. And I've always loved the werewolf lore, and the she calls them morphenkinder. It makes more sense this way. Morph means shape, kinder, child, from German, and changing child makes sense. So she uses her knowledge of linguistics as well, which makes it all the more enjoyable, I do believe. If you're a person who loves language as well as much as I do, and foreign language for that matter, then this is straight up your alley, and it'll be your cup of tea that you will cherish and savor throughout the night and throughout these cold months that are becoming warmer and warmer. Well, the only other thing I have to say is my dad was taken to Stop 11 to CCU because he had water on his lungs, and it's because he had been eating too much salt. And I thought I had been keeping him away from salt. I thought he wasn't consuming so much of it. But I had a kind of a premonition, and I loathe it when I have these premonitions, but I wish I didn't. But he had a bad thought. He had some pink in his sputum, and he takes blood thinner, so it was worth noting that this would occur. It wasn't blood straight up, but it's just something that they thought, oh, we should probably take a better look at this. And he's a very complicated, meticulous case that they have to overlook and see what exactly is happening with him, and they're going to try to dry him out. And they said, yeah, they're drying me out like they do with drunkards at the drunk tank. I thought, Dad, that is not a good analogy. Stop. My father, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this is my dad. He always makes fun of a situation no matter what it is. He just likes to be gregarious about this. Is the way he is. I inherited it, so what can I say? I'm cuckoo too. But it's hopefully he'll be alright. I'm sure he will be. I've got an interview tomorrow, so hopefully I'll ace it and I'll get this job. Fingers crossed, okay? Until next time. See you later. Huh.